All right, everybody, buckle up, because today we're diving into something kind of crazy.
Oh, yeah.
AI and education.
That's a big one.
It is a big one, and, we've all seen those headlines about, ChatGPT writing essays and
Hmm.
and kids getting, perfect grades without really, cracking open a textbook.
Right. Yeah. Are we actually learning anything? Or are we just learning how to game the system?
Yeah, like, is this the end of,
Right.
homework as we know it, or?
The end of learning as we know it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to unpack in this deep dive. We're going to go way beyond those,
Yeah.
those surface level hot takes and really dig into what real learning could look like in this,
Right.
this brave new world of, AI bots that can basically do our homework for us.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a wake-up call, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
It's like this AI thing forces us to kind of confront some of the stuff we've been maybe avoiding about,
Yeah.
how we teach and how we learn.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we've got some awesome sources to help us do that. We've got Alfie Kohn's, classic Punished by Rewards.
Oh, yeah. It's a good one.
We've got Love Learning, I Hate School by Susan Blum.
Mm-hmm.
And even some really cool analogies from Friday SLO Talks.
Nice. Nice. So we're looking at the whole picture here.
We're looking at the whole picture.
Yeah.
From the big picture philosophy of education all the way down to
Right.
the nitty gritty of how we measure learning.
Yeah, and how this technology kind of explodes all of that, right?
Exactly. And so
Yeah.
I think, one of the things that I found really interesting, reading Kohn and Bloom
Yeah.
is this idea that maybe good grades,
Yeah.
aren't even that good,
Well, and that's not a new idea, right?
No, not at all.
Like Cohn's been saying that for years, and it's like
Yeah.
the system sort of sets us up to chase those grades,
Yeah.
even if it means we're not actually learning that much.
Yeah, it's remember,
Oh, I remember it well.
back in the day, cramming for a test.
Oh, yeah.
And then, the minute you walk out of the exam room, poof, it's gone.
It's all gone. Yeah, absolutely.
And it's what was the point of that,
Right, you just memorized it just long enough to spit it back out on the test, and then it's gone.
And that's exactly, that's the
Yeah.
core of what Kohn and Bloom are talking about.
Totally, and now we've got this AI
Exactly.
that can do the cramming for you.
Yeah, it's
It can write that essay
it's like cheating.
without you even having to, right?
Yeah, but it's even if we weren't using AI, it's the system itself.
Yeah.
Kind of pushes us towards that, that kind of superficial learning.
Like we're almost incentivized to game the system
Exactly.
instead of actually engaging deeply with
Yes.
material.
And then you bring AI into the
Yeah.
mix.
And then it just
It amplifies it.
it just amplifies everything.
And that's where things get really, really interesting and,
I mean,
kind of
exciting though too, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
It's okay, if this is broken,
Yeah.
now we have to rethink it.
Right,
We
right.
can't just kind of keep patching it up,
Yeah, and Friday SLO Talks had this, this really great analogy
Oh, yeah.
that I thought was really helpful.
What was that?
So they're talking about, how we measure learning,
Mm-hmm.
and they say it's like measuring the weight of a cookbook to determine how much someone has learned about cooking.
Whoa, okay, yeah, I see that.
So it's just because you have this big, heavy cookbook
Right.
doesn't mean you can actually cook anything.
Right, you haven't tasted anything, you haven't smelled anything,
Right. Yeah, and it's
you haven't, gotten your hands dirty.
exactly.
Yeah,
It's all theoretical.
And it's that's what grades are,
Right.
So it's like you're measuring this, this abstract thing. You can ace a test on the history of cooking, but that doesn't mean you can make a good meal.
Exactly.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And so then,
And you can have ChatGPT write you that essay on the history of cooking
exactly.
and still not be able to make a meal.
And so the question is, if grades aren't enough and attendance, just butts and seats isn't enough,
Right, what are we looking at?
what should we be looking at?
Yeah, what actually matters.
What actually matters? And I think, all of these sources kind of point to this idea of competencies and skills development,
Yeah,
right?
can you actually do?
Yeah, can you actually do the thing?
Can you cook the meal?
Can you cook the meal?
Right.
Yeah, can you solve the problem? Can you build the thing? Can you
Exactly.
communicate effectively?
Can you write? Can you think critically? Can you problem solve? Those are the things that matter,
And those are the things that AI, frankly, can't really do yet.
Exactly.
It can mimic, it can kind of fake it.
Yeah, but it can't truly understand and apply knowledge in the same way that a human can.
Right. And so it's like,
So we need to be focusing on those things.
that's what we need to be teaching, and that's what we need to be assessing.
100%, yeah.
And so then the question becomes, like, how do we create a classroom culture?
Right. How do we set up the environment?
Yeah, where students are actually excited about
Yeah.
mastering those skills.
Like intrinsically motivated, right?
Intrinsically motivated.
They want to learn for the sake of learning, not just for the grade.
Not just for the grade, yeah. And I think,
Which is hard, right?
it is hard.
Especially with all these distractions and shortcuts.
Especially in the age of
Yeah.
TikTok and
Yeah, AI and everything else.
AI and everything else. But it's like, I think about like project-based learning.
Oh, yeah, I love that.
Or, like real-world problem solving, or like connecting learning to students' passions.
Yeah, make it relevant.
Yeah, make it relevant. Make it so that they're actually like,
They actually care about it.
yeah, like they want to learn this thing.
Right.
Not because it's going to get them a grade, but because it's actually going to help them,
It's going to help them in their lives.
in their lives. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think like what we're really talking about here is like a fundamental shift,
It's a paradigm shift.
Yeah, like a paradigm shift in how we think about education.
And AI is like the catalyst, right?
Yeah.
It's forcing us to have this conversation
It's forcing us to have this conversation
that maybe we should have been having all along.
that we should have been having all along. Yeah. And I think ultimately, like, this is a good thing, right?
I think so, yeah.
It's like it's forcing us to rethink things in a way that could actually benefit students.
Make education more meaningful.
Make education more meaningful, more relevant,
Yeah, help them actually prepare for the world they're going to be living in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a little challenge.
Okay, I like it.
Just imagine the grades didn't exist.
Ooh, yeah.
What's one skill, like one competency
Mm-hmm.
that you would be like absolutely fired up
Yeah.
to master?
Oh, that's a good one.
And we want to hear from you. So head over to our social media. Let us know
Yeah, let's keep this conversation going.
what
Yeah.
you're thinking, because this is a conversation that, needs
Yeah.
to keep going, right?
Absolutely. It affects all of us.
It affects all of us. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's all for today, folks.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for tuning in.